Alright, so let's picture you on the road, your tire goes flat. You know, I saw this YouTube video, how to change a tire. Let me look that up on my phone. The place you want to start for your vehicle is in the owner's manual. Look up tire, look up changing. Occasionally it'll be in some other spots, but that's a pretty sure bet. Changing tires, page 247. And what I'm going to be looking for when I go to page 247, I'm going to be looking for where my spare tire is, where the jack is located, and where the jack points for the car are. So here I'm actually get to page 250 before it shows me any of that. I'm going to lift up the back hood. There's apparently a little tray in there. Underneath the tray is the lug wrench, the jack handle, the jack, and below that is the spare tire. And it shows you, if you need to, it shows you how to kind of take all that stuff apart. Now, this says to block the wheel opposite. That's a good idea if you can find a rock around to do it. I don't think, I've never noticed a tire block when I've opened this car, and typically that's something I don't really do. Now you do want to be safe. Cars are very heavy and jacks can sometimes give out. It's better to never ever be under the car while you've got it jacked up and not on blocks. A jack can give loose. You don't want to be under a car, but you don't need to be changing a tire. Here it shows you the first step. Loosen the lug nuts. Then jack it up. Okay, that's the first mistake most people make. Before the car's jacked up, all the four wheels are on the ground. It's nice and stable. You can crank those lug nuts as hard as you need to get them off. Once it's up on the jack, you start torquing that and you're going to tip the car off the jack. But here it shows you the jack points for the car, and this is very typical for most modern cars. You're going to have a scissor mechanism jack, and it's going to have a little slot in it that'll go right behind the front wheel. It's a very common jack point, and in this car it's about midway through the rear passenger door if you're jacking up the back side. So let's get busy and change a tire. So here we go. We'll flip this up. Actually, looks like probably need to take that out. Got a couple little just half quarter turn nuts there. Oh my goodness, look at all this stuff. Well, this used to be my wife's car. Let me pause the video and get all this cleaned up. What do we got? This is an old job of my wife's. I think they gave her some kind of emergency roadside kit. Got our scraper. We do use that occasionally. We've got a kite. Well, that would be fun to take out. So, my wife is the queen of organization. So, in with all that stuff in the car is this handy little thing. It's this collapsing basket. And I can't do it with one hand. Anyway, this basket actually folds up flat, so we'll go ahead and take all that stuff out, put it back in the basket, and then return some of it anyway to its place. Take two. Okay, so here we are. We just come over to the back of the car. This is where all the spare tire is and all the jacks and everything you need. There's a car mat that needs to come out, little quarter turn lockings here, and this is going to be different in every car, and that's why you do need to take a look at your owner's manual to find all this stuff. Now here's a couple things we're probably going to need. We're definitely going to need this lug wrench to take the lug nuts off. We're going to need the jack handle, and there's a couple other little bits and bobs in here. that we may or may not need. Usually that's it. That, the jack, and the spare tire will usually get your tire changed. Sorry about the camera work there. There, so there's the jack, and there's the spare tire. Jack's held in here with a little rubber band. That should come out. So that's our scissor jack. And just of note, this is a hybrid car, and there's behind that little panel there are the hybrid batteries. That's something you don't want to go mucking around with unless you know what you're doing. There's a little orange handle here that you can pull out, and that disconnects all the batteries from the car, just as a safety feature, because there's a lot of volts running through there. You wouldn't want to go messing around back there. Alright, so you bring your spare tire up to your front tire, or whichever one you're changing. And just before I do that, I'm going to go ahead and check the pressure in this just to make sure it's up to spec. The inflation pressure on that should be 60 psi according to the car. And that's exactly what it says on the tire here too. So we'll put that right at 60 if it's not already. I'll get the camera set up so I can use two hands now. Okay, so we're going to get busy changing that tire, but the first thing I want to do is make sure that emergency brake is on nice and tight so we don't roll. Here's everything we need. Here's our spare tire and our lug wrench. Here's our jack with our jack handle threaded through. Little hole there. And I've jacked it up a little bit from how it gets stored because with one hand it's almost impossible, but as you crank this without a load on it, it's very hard to keep it from tipping over. So the easiest way to do it is even just with your hands here, sort of get it up to where it'll just fit under the car here and into that jack point. You should feel something nice and solid metal going down into that slot. And I do. So we'll go ahead and jack it up from here. And again, I've got the emergency brake on. And I do happen to have the wheel blocked because I'm here at home. On the road, that might not be possible. So I'll tell you what, I'm going to set the camera back up so I can do this two-handed. Okay, so again, jacking up your car. You want it on nice level ground, wheels blocked if you can. Definitely you want the emergency brake on. Before I get the tire off the ground, I want to loosen up these lug nuts. Now, these can be on with a fair bit of torque. I'm a big guy, and I realize that some of you that are needing to do this may not be as big as me. But I want to give you some idea of just how much torque is required to loosen these. So, a quick lean in, for me, is all it really takes. Now, you may need to get a little more leverage. And quick word about these lug wrenches that come with the cars. I think they angle it at this angle to get you away from the car a little bit when you're pushing down. But actually that's not really ideal, because to get more torque you really want that at a 90-degree angle. But I think again, just to make them short, get you out away from the car a little bit, they make them at this steeper angle of a 90. And that does put some of the force into not the rotational force, but a bit of a skew force. And that's not ideal, but like I said, they're trying to save space, and if you'd either need a longer wrench with a steeper angle, or you'd be right up next to the car as you're trying to push down. So it's not ideal, these little lug wrenches, but they work just fine. Now I've got them loose. I don't want to take them all the way off until I get the car up in the air. And I don't need it far up in the air. I just need it up in the air. So it'll clear the ground as I pull it off. And you'll know it's getting off the ground because it starts getting harder to jack up. That should do it. So go ahead and finish taking our lug nuts off. Some of them will be finger tight. There's going to be one of them that the pressure of the tire is leaning against, and that one you'll need the wrench for. If you've got a hubcap, you can keep them there. Just try to make sure they don't roll away. Some cars use bolts that go in. This one is a nut that threads on a bolt that's sticking out here. Pull that one out a little ways. Bang. Now I put a spare on. The spare is almost always smaller than the original tire, at least in most cars. Some of them have full-size spares, but that's a little rare. So we know it should slide on here because the bigger one had enough clearance. You just want to get it lined up. And it's all just the reverse of what we just did. Get these on, but don't tighten them down all the way. And you'll notice I never get any part of my body kind of under the car here. If this were to slip off the jack when the tire's off, it's going to come down this way significantly and probably wreck your axle. So better a wrecked axle than a wrecked person. And these little tires, they're really not designed to stay on the car. They're designed to get you about 60 miles at most down the road to get your flat fixed. Okay, so now I'll ease it down. Again, you can see how that wobbles around once the weight is off. In order to put it away, we do need to screw it all the way together. That's how it gets packed away. And don't forget to tighten these down. Again, I like to make two passes around, one getting them all sort of tight, and then putting one final last crank on them right around the circle. Tire changed, now you have to just put stuff away.